You're watching Vihaba News. This is our series of providing the latest updated news on the agriculture sector, not just in Vietnam but also in the world. Here are the headlines today. The world spice market is growing strongly due to the increasing demand of people from all over the world. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a lot of impacts on the spice market, when the production of spices is decreasing, along with disruptions in the supply chain that caused the prices of many spices to increase. In Vietnam, with two main spices, cinnamon, pepper, Vietnam's export turnover recorded positive growth in many markets. The first part concerning the global spice market. The first news, the COVID-19 pandemic affects paper production and export of many countries. Before the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the world paper market tended to decrease relatively in volume while increasing rapidly in value in the first 8 months of 2021. The second news, India's spices production increases 60% to 10.7 million tons in 2020 to 2021. The Agriculture Minister of India said India's spices production has increased by 60% to 10.7 million tons in 2020 to 2021, from 6.76 million tons in 2014 to 2015. The third news, Germany's the largest paper importer and trader in Europe. Germany is Europe's largest importer of herbs and spices by a long way, with import value equivalent to 20% of total EU imports. The second part concerning the Vietnamese spices market. The third news, the paper market has prospered again after nearly 4 years of struggling with difficulties. By the end of 2021, the paper industry has led in export growth in the group of agricultural, forestry and fishery products. Thanks to high prices, the export turnover of the paper industry reached the highest level since 2018. The second news, Vietnamese paper expands market share in China. Along with the recovery of the paper market, Vietnam's paper market share in China's total import turnover in the first 10 months of 2021 increased over the same period in 2020. The third news, Vietnam's export cinnamon price is high. The cinnamon growing area tends to expand. Besides the growth of the paper market, Vietnam's cinnamon exports are also increasing, causing the cinnamon growing area to tend to expand. This may cause an imbalance of supply and demand, so it is necessary to calculate the export capacity for regional planning. The first part, the global spices market. The global spices market is not outside the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So production of spices in many countries has decreased compared to previous years. However, India's spices production still increased 60% to 10.7 million tons in 2020 to 2021. Germany is the largest paper importer and trader in Europe. The first news, the COVID-19 pandemic affects paper production and exports of many countries. Before the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the world paper market tended to decrease relatively in volume while increasing rapidly in value in the first 8 months of 2021. As of August 2021, a number of nations had completed the paper harvest and reported year-end output numbers that were much lower than the previous year. Specifically, Malaysia's paper production is estimated to decrease by 40% compared to 2021, equivalent to 16,000 to 17,000 tons, and may continue falling over the next 2 years. Under the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the harvest in Indonesia took place later, and the yield was reduced, resulting in an output of just around 30,000 tons. India's output is maintained at 60,000 to 65,000 tons. Farmers have also finished harvesting the last paper of the year and are available to supply to the market. The volume of paper exported by countries in general is decreasing, aside from the fact that the weather has an impact on production. The pandemic situation in Southeast Asian nations has gotten complicated, leading to commerce to stall. The export is even more difficult for the high freight rate to some countries such as the United States or European countries. For example, Brazil's paper export totaled 55,827 tons in the first 8 months of the year, down 10.9% in volume, but up 32.1% in value year-on-year due to high export prices, with an average reaching $2,887 per ton. The second news, India's spices production increases 67 to 10.7 million tons in 2020 to 2021. The Agriculture Minister of India said India's spices production has increased by 60% to 10.7 million tons in 2020 to 2021, from 6.76 million tons in 2014 to 2015. Spices export nearly doubled to 29,535 crore rupees, equaled $3.98 billion last year, from 14,899 crore rupees in 2014 to 2015. The ministry said that thanks to a record harvest of commodities such as chili, ginger, turmeric, and cumin. In terms of volume, export climbed from 0.89 million tons to 1.6 million tons in the last 7 years. Spices account for nearly 41% of all horticultural exports. The annual growth of spices production was about 7.9%, in which cumin recorded 14.8%, garlic 14.7%, ginger 7.5%, fennel 6.8%, and red chilies 4.1%, turmeric 1.3% over the 7 years. The release stated that the spectacular growth of spices in the country is due to the Ministry, Agriculture and Farmer Welfare various development programs, and that the demand for spices had increased tremendously due to the recognition of spices as a health supplement, particularly during the pandemic period, as evidenced by the growing export of spices such as turmeric, ginger, cumin, and chili. The third news, Germany is the largest paper importer and trader in Europe. Germany is Europe's largest importer of herbs and spices by a long way, with an import value equivalent to 20% of total EU imports. More than 60% of these German imports come from developing countries. Madagascar is Germany's largest supplier, followed by China, Indonesia, Brazil, and Vietnam. Germany is one of the leaders in the global spice trade. The Port of Hamburg has world-class facilities for the transport and storage of spices. Germany is also the home base of some of the world's largest food processors, which generate a strong demand for herbs and spices. The German organic market is the largest and one of the most developed in the EU. German consumers and the German food industry are increasingly concerned with health and sustainability. The recovery of the German economy leads to the demand for food, including paper. The growing middle class in Germany is likely to consume more paper in their daily meals. With paper, in 10 months of 2021, Germany imported 10,313 tons from Vietnam, equivalent to 44.92 million USD. Germany's paper imports in 2021 decreased due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the German market has very strict requirements for products. Products including spices exported to Germany are required to comply with the limits on pesticides in the European law. The second part, Vietnamese spices market. Along with the changes of the global paper import and export market for spices, the Vietnamese spices market also has significant influences. The paper market has prospered again after nearly 4 years of struggling with difficulties, along with the expansion of the market share in China. Besides Vietnam export cement price is high, the cement growing area tends to expand. The first news, the paper market has prospered again for nearly 4 years of struggling with difficulties. By the end of 2021, the paper industry has led in export growth in the group of agricultural, forestry, and fishery products. Thanks to high prices, the export turnover of paper industry reached the highest level since 2018. Vietnam's paper continues to affirm its leading position in global paper export, with supplying 60% of the world's paper consumption demand, far ahead of other paper exporting countries such as Brazil and Indonesia. In 2021, Vietnam exported paper to more than 110 countries with the participation of more than 200 exporters. By the end of 11 months of 2021, compared to the same period in 2020, the US continues to be the largest paper import market of Vietnam, reaching 55,602 tons, up 9.6%. In 2020, the export volume of paper reached 285,292 tons, but the turnover brought in only 660,569 million USD. In 2021, the export volume of paper decreased to only 260,000 tons, but the turnover jumped to 950 million USD, down about 9% in volume, but up 44% in value. The main reason for the sharp increase in paper prices in the past year is that the area and output of Vietnam's paper continuously decreased due to the low price of paper in previous years. Therefore, farmers do not pay attention to care, causing many areas of paper to be infected, die in mass, yield low, others switch to other crops. Paper output in 2021 is estimated at 180,000 tons, down 25% compared to 2021, and is expected to continue to decrease slightly in 2022. The second news, Vietnamese paper expands market share in China. Along with the recovery of the paper market, Vietnam's paper market share in China totals import turnover in the first 10 months of 2021 increased over the same period in 2020. The Ministry of Industry and Trade quoted statistics from the China Customs Department as saying that China paper import turnover in October 2021 reached 4.79 million USD, down 1.3% compared to October 2020. In the first 10 months of 2021, China's paper import turnover decreased by 6.4% over the same period in 2020, reaching 45.79 million USD. China's paper imports from Indonesia and Malaysia decreased but increased from Vietnam, Brazil and India. In the first 10 months of 2021, China's paper import turnover from Vietnam reached 14.54 million USD, up 15% over the same period in 2020. Vietnam's paper market share in China's total imports decreased from 25.85% in the 10 months of 2020 to 30.76% in the 10 months of 2021. The 2021 paper crop in China decreased due to adverse weather. As a result, China increased its paper imports in the first months of 2021. However, the complicated developments of the COVID-19 pandemic caused the country to sharply reduce imports from June 2021 due to the decrease in demand for spicy food in China and the decrease in the demand for processing companies. However, China is strengthening strict quarantine measures and international transshipment operators have decided to extend the suspension of service for at least 6 weeks until after the Lunar New Year holiday. This may cause more disruption in supply chain in the near future. Vietnam's export cinnamon price is high. The cinnamon growing area tends to expand. Besides the growth of the paper market, Vietnam's cinnamon exports are also increasing, causing the cinnamon growing area to tend to expand. This may cause an imbalance of supply and demand, so it is necessary to calculate the export capacity for regional planning. According to statistics of the World Spices Association, Vietnam ranks 3rd in the world in terms of cinnamon production. This product is strongly consumed in the markets of India, the Middle East, Japan, Korea, and the US and European countries, achieving export revenue of about 400 million USD per year. In the first 11 months of 2021, cinnamon exports increased by 14.7%. However, the imbalance between the supply and demand has caused the price of cinnamon to increase, especially from 2016 until now. This situation may lead to the massive transformation of cinnamon development in Vietnam. In addition to production activities, there is also an increase in activities related to purchasing, processing, and exporting cinnamon between the domestic and foreign enterprises. This can cause difficulties in meeting quality barriers, price risk, and output margins. That it is for Vihaba News here on Vihaba channel. Do stay with us because we will have many upcoming weekly news on the agriculture sector. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more news. Thank you for watching Vihaba News. See you soon. Bye.